He can't do much more to put himself in front of Tony Popovic the way he's going at the moment.
And they just haven't improved, and they've just imploded right to the end. You can analyse the game all you like, but 0-0 just shows me where Sydney FC are at. I think that's what's won them the title.
It just shows Goodwin's raw speed in the open field.
I think this is a long tail of Australian players being undersold. He is the new highlight reel package.
Big future ahead for him, and he'll be doing that in the championship next season. Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. Magical Mohamed Toure has done it again, scoring his second hat-trick for Norwich City in just his fourth start. The last international window showed he's irreplaceable for the Socceroos, and he's having a significant impact for his club as well. Elsewhere, Alex Robertson seals promotion with Cardiff. Patrick Yazbek makes history with Nashville, and a young Aussie striker is through to the last four in the ACL Elite. At home, the Jets seal their first ever Premier's plate. The top six are locked in, and it's a pair of spoons for the Wanderers. The Socceroos announce a pre-World Cup fixture, and the Matildas win the FIFA series, and our young Matildas are knocked out. All that and more coming up, and we'll finish with our team of the week. Now, as that winter air rolls in, we know it's only one thing happening, Mopper, and it means it's squeaky bum time.
Sensation. What a week. It's the important time of the year, isn't it? April, May, as we've seen some great promotions and great stories during the week. Wow, the Australians are on fire. It's exciting to see. But what about the big story? Mo Toure, second hat-trick. Boom. Scores his second in just his ninth game. He has 7 goals, 3 assists in just 373 minutes of playing time after just coming back a couple of weeks ago from his injury. Well, Chief, number one, first to react after his header, and it wasn't the best of header, but it was well saved. But again, quickest to react, slammed home from close range. Second one, showed great speed to get on the end of the counter. Oh, what a great counter that was from the back. He's got a lot to thank for his winger there. Put a great ball across, I think it was Urzek, and then used great speed to get past his defender and pop it home at the far post. And then, well, you said lucky goal. We could have said screamer. We could have said lucky deflection. And that's probably what it was. But it doesn't matter. You just got to be there, don't you? And yes, it was a bit dubious off the body there. But bang, 3 goals for Mo Toure. And he was well equipped for it. And he's got the biggest smile on his face again. And he's just loving life in the championship.
Yeah, they say that when you're out of form, you need to go in. You need one to go in off your bum, but he's hardly in bad form, is he? But yeah, second hat-trick in just his fourth start for Norwich. Quite unbelievable, his start. When the rumours came up about him moving from Randers to Norwich in the championship, we did have a few little question marks. I think we're mostly excited, but we had some question marks over how he would adapt, and particularly with his injury history. And obviously, he has already had one injury at Norwich, but either side of that injury, he's been absolutely prolific. Not only the goals, but assists in there as well. Picked up that hat-trick of assists a few weeks back as well. So, yeah, completely unbelievable. Unfortunately, they're not in the mix for the playoffs, but a lot to build on there in the off-season for Norwich. And obviously, Mo Toure is going to be a huge part of it. I said in the opener that he's irreplaceable for the Socceroos, and so it proved in the last window where we just couldn't quite find the answers. And it's amazing how when he's gone down, what a big gap he leaves up top. And, you think back to the World Cup qualifiers, and he came on in that game against Saudi Arabia and looked good. But until that point, he hadn't really got much of a look in, and just shows what a absolutely amazing 12 months that he has had, at Randers, and then getting the move, and then obviously being our out-and-out choice for number 9 for the Socceroos now.
Yeah, sensational, isn't it? And what an exciting front line we were going to have. And I meant to say Schwartu as was the great assist who broke wide for that second goal of Mo's. But look, isn't it promising that I believe Norwich, when we first broke the transfer, they were down like 16th or 17th, and they had that massive debacle about one of their best players going over to America or Canada. I can't remember exactly, but they were down the bottom half of the table. And ever since Mo's come into this side, they've just springboarded up the table. Yeah, I think they're equal 9th or 10th at the moment. Bristol City, they've caught up to, but yeah, just outside the playoffs. But they're primed for a big year. And we've seen news of Irankunda about 23 million and what he'd be worth if someone come in and bought him. But wow, I think boys just keep plying the trade, and I think bigger things will come anyway. So they're definitely on the right track, yeah. And Mo's having a fantastic end of the season there, and great game time leading up to the World Cup.
It's going to be the case for a lot of our players, but if they do play and play well at the World Cup, all of a sudden these transfer opportunities open up. So not only are they going to get that window, but they're coming into that window on some good form as well. So yeah, no doubt that we're going to speak about another one of our promising youngsters a little bit later in terms of his opportunity at the World Cup. But no doubt that even though he's only been at Norwich only a handful of months, that if the opportunity comes up and a big club comes in, you just never know. For Mo Toure, he might be on the move again out of the Championship sooner rather than later. But we'll leave that for another time. And speaking of the Championship, mate, it's been a bit happening. Do you want to run us through our Aussies in action in the Championship?
Yeah, well, first we'll start. It's been a big double week as usual in the Championship, but Blackburn pick up a crucial point of survival during the week, and that was at 1-1 at home to Coventry, who celebrated their promotion to this week to the Premier League. They've played 2 more games, but are 5 points clear of Oxford, who obviously lost last night. If we go down to Daniel Benny and Keely Adamson, they were unused subs for QPR. They conceded 2 early goals to lose 2-0 to Millwall. Millwall just too good on the day. Midweek, no game time for the Aussie boys, but Pompey pull off some major wins this week. They, first of all, defining 2-0 win over Ipswich, which was massive, considering Ipswich was second. They now play Leicester this week to try to secure survival, and they did exactly that, beating them 1-0 and just about sealing the relegation for Leicester, as Harry Suter is an unused sub in this one again. So Leicester looks like their history, and Pompey have survived the drop. So great news for the Aussies, who are out injured with Pompey at the moment. A lot of injuries there, and obviously Jacob Farrell come back, obviously on loan as well. He'll go back at the end of this season. So a few opportunities. Tete Yengi, we've seen on the bench a few weeks ago. He'll obviously be all looking for pre-season, but it will be in the Championship as well as their fellow Hayden Matthews. Cam Burgess, well, his Swansea fail 1-0 to high-flying Southampton. Southampton are the team in form and probably the best team in the Championship at the moment, only losing 1-0. His Socceroos played 90 minutes. We've seen Nestory Irankunda put himself about the entire game, but wasn't enough with Watford losing 2-0 to Sheffield United at home. So a bit of a Championship wrap. Few Aussies missing, but no one could take the headline off fantastic Mo Toure.
Just on Irankunda as well, mate. I read some comments from the Watford fans, and they said they weren't very happy with the display overall, but some conflicting views. A lot of them, happy with Nestory Irankunda putting himself about and putting in a lot of effort, and a few said he went a bit over the line in terms of his aggression, but certainly couldn't question his commitment whatsoever. And there's a massive game tonight, Middlesbrough playing Ipswich. So very important for Middlesbrough. They probably won't move too far up the ladder unless they have a really big win. But it's important for them now to make sure they're definitely in the playoffs with only a handful of games to go. So big game coming up for Riley McGree and Sammy Silvera on Sunday as we're recording tonight. Let's go down to League One, mate. Massive news in regarding one of our Aussies. Midweek, Huddersfield draw 1-1 with Cardiff. Alex Robertson playing 60 minutes, but they got the job done overnight. They're promoted to the Championship with a 3-1 win over Reading. Alex Robertson playing 61 minutes. Now, this one's been on the cards for a little bit of time now. We were pretty confident they were going to get promoted, but guaranteed their promotion this morning. And great news for Alex Robertson because we know he's much better than that level, and I guess we'll see now how he can go in the Championship next season with Cardiff. Good to see him getting some significant, or not significant, but some minutes now for the Socceroos and put some of that eligibility chat behind us now, and looking forward to him kicking on. He's still so young and big future ahead for him, and he'll be doing that in the Championship next season.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? And it's the level that he needs to be at to continue to move forward. I think, like you said, we see him on the edge of the Socceroos, but he needs that championship, more high profile, more higher standard. But is it the right club? Cardiff, if you cast your mind back, we're in the Premier League not long ago. So, look, they're going to give themselves a good shout. I think their team's pretty solid. So, yeah, look, that's a tough league, the Championship. It'll be perfect for Robbo, I think. Coming into his prime age, I believe, to really make a statement of where his football's at.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Let's talk about a team that are very likely not to be in League One next season, but they are doing their best to do the Great Escape, the old but midweek Port Vale, Joe Gauci has a great game, keeping a clean sheet and saving a penalty in a 0-0 draw against Barnsley. And they move off the bottom of the table. First time they've been off the bottom for quite a while. And then what about on, I think it was Saturday morning, they won again 3-1. Joe Gauci in goals. They climb up another spot. Surely they can't survive, mate. They need to win just about every game, or they do need to win every game and have Wimbledon lose every game. They've got a couple of games in hand. They've got Wigan up next, but it would be the most unlikely of survival. So don't think it would quite happen. But look, good for them that they're having a crack at the back end of the season, and you just never know. But yeah, likely to still be going down. But it looks like Joe
Well,
Gauci's in
Chief,
some decent touch.
He is, and I've had the calculator out, mate. And Wimbledon lost overnight, and they've got 3 games to make up on Wimbledon. So Wimbledon on 50 points. It's the last hurrah. Leighton's on 51, Burton's on 51, Peterborough's 51. But Wimbledon and Leyton Orient have played 44 games. Port Vale 41. Okay, they're 12 points behind. So they'll be, if they win their make-up games, they'll only be 3 points behind, and currently are 4 goals behind on goal difference. But if you win the next 3, you'd think they'd be probably either even or in front. So it could possibly come down to the last couple of games. It could. The miracle is on. So come on, Port Vale tonight against Wigan. It's at midnight. Can we get another great performance? The FA Cup quarterfinalist, Chief. You never know.
Yes, of course. Joe Gauci in the sticks there. John Brady on the touchline as well. Let's cheer those Port Vale boys home and see if they can pull off the miraculous survival. It's dangerous times when Mopper's got the calculator out, that's for sure. All right, elsewhere in League One, Caleb Watts says Plymouth, they continue their playoff charge with a 3-1 win over Wimbledon. Watts played 61 minutes with his side, just 2 points from the playoffs with 3 games to go. And then during the week, Wigan thumped Rotherham 3-0 with Rafael Borges Rodriguez playing 80 minutes, and they lifts Wigan to 13th, sitting nice and comfortably in mid-table. But as we said a couple of weeks back, interesting with Rafael Borges Rodriguez, obviously on loan from Coventry. They're now in the Premier League, so probably looking like a loan to the Championship next season, you would think, or maybe even somewhere else in Europe, but can't quite see him being on the books for Premier League for Coventry next season. And just quickly wanted to say that Crystal Palace are through to the Europa Conference League semi-finals as well. So well done to James Holland, who's on the coaching staff there at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, Shakhtar next for young James Holland, assistant manager. So exciting times. Maybe, possibly another Australian lifting European trophy, although Shakhtar are going to be very hard to beat. But Crystal Palace are in good form, so you never know. All right, mate, let's go to Europe and the Bundesliga. And wow, wasn't this a massive game? St. Pauli drew 1-1 after leading, Chief. They have a away penalty late in the game. A killer. Jackson Irvine captained the side and played a full game. Connor Metcalf come on in the 77th minute. They will now wait to see how the teams around them go. They sit 5 points above safety but remain in the relegation playoff. Obviously, the Bundesliga has a playoff by 2 points with 4 games left. Crucially, they do have the bottom two sides to play in those fixtures, which could be a massive advantage. There's still hope for St. Pauli. So let's go over to Italy. Midweek, Parma rocked Napoli early, but got pegged back 1-1. Siccardi again playing a full game, was kept busy. Napoli had 20 shots and Siccardi had 12 defensive contributions plus 6 duels won in this one. They go to 36 and in 14th spot, and then they come back again on the weekend just overnight, and they beat Udinese 1-0 with Socceroos playing 90 minutes again. So great week for Parma. Great pickup of 4 more points as they continue their mid-table push. In Spain, midweek, Levante, they deliver in a must-win game, 1-0 over Getafe. And a game they did dominate. Matt Ryan keeps a clean sheet. But unfortunately, in the La Liga, all bottom 6 sides picked up points. 5 of them got wins. 1 had a draw. Can you believe it? Levante, they pull off a win, and then everyone else around them gets points. There's a 4-point gap still. They remain from safety, but a big chance this week. They play tonight, Sevilla, who in 16th spot. This is it. This is do or die for Levante. If they're ever going to have any chance, they must win this game. La Liga 2 midweek, we had Mobile. He played 21 minutes in the 2-2 draw with Mirandas, and Castellan remain in the playoff spot, which is his side in 6th. Overnight, again, Mobile. Double up, had 19 minutes off the bench. He got an assist in this one and a goal to break the deadlock and get his side a 3-1 win. They've temporarily moved into second automatic playoff space with rivals having a game in hand. So massive night for Mobile. This could be very interesting in La Liga 2. In Austria, we had Grazia drew 1-1 with Reed, with Jacob Italiano, my apologies, playing a full game, and they remain safe in the relegation round in 3rd. We'll go to Croatia. Anthony Kalic got some late game time as his side, Hadžić Split, drew with Skarven 2-2. They stay in 2nd on 9 points. Unfortunately, though, Dinamo are storming out in front by 9 points with 6 games to play. So very unlikely situation there, but still 2nd spot gets you in Europe. In the Dutch league, we had Feyenoord draw 1-1 with NEC during the week, keeping 2nd place. Jordi Bosso wasn't in the matchday squad. No report on that one either. And in the Netherlands, still, not even a midweek party, if you've seen the photos and the videos, Stop Den Haag. Well, they just keep partying on. They 5-1 thumping of Warwick. Cam Pupion picks up an assist and a full game in this one. So they just keep partying on. Roda, they draw 2-2, throwing away a lead. But Josh Nisbet, well, did you see this goal? This is the goal I'm talking about, Chief. Bangs in a goal and a full game, and they still remain in the last player spot. Nisbet goals was a beautiful solo run after picking up the ball deep in his own half, and just a nice finish off the post. What about that one? That was special.
Oh, it was a cracker, and a kind of typical Josh Nisbet goal in a way in some of the ones I remember him scoring for the Mariners in the A-League. But certainly I'm enjoying his football over there, Josh Nisbet, and just kept going, and eventually put that ball in the back of the net, and very good that they're in the last playoff spot, can't be knocked out of that. So we'll follow on with lots of intrigue in terms of their performance in the playoffs and see if he can join Cam Pupion in being promoted to the Eredivisie next season. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely. All right, let's continue to wrap up Europe. Czech Republic, Grant Cole got 17 minutes off the bench as his Sparta Prague win 3-1, consolidating 2nd spot. There's one more round of games before the competition splits off, another league that splits the top table and the bottom. Denmark, midweek, we had Randers go down 2-1 at home to FC Copenhagen with Paul Izzo in goals. Randers are 3rd in the Group B, 4 points above relegation, so still pretty safe. And then Switzerland, midweek, Liam Chipperfield gets late minutes in Sion's 3-0 win over Lausanne and are 5th on the table. A very busy week in Europe. But Chief, why don't you wrap up the next Aussie coach that lifts silverware?
Yeah, it's awesome. A couple of accounts on X pointed this one out this morning that John Maisano's Real Sociedad, he's an assistant there at Real Sociedad. They beat Atletico Madrid on penalties to win the Copa del Rey overnight. And yeah, what a fantastic achievement. He left Sydney FC mid-season. Obviously, he was working under Ufuk Talay, and what an opportunity that was. They had a new head coach come in, I think, around the same time as well. And yeah, what a performance. We've seen Sociedad kind of perform. They won the Liga, I'm pretty sure, a while ago now, but they shocked obviously the big boys quite a while back now, and yeah, adding another trophy to the cabinet now. So yeah, fantastic. Well done to John Mesano, and yeah, we'll see how he continues on with his time in Spain. That's awesome.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. What a great story. Another Aussie there lifting a trophy. We've got plenty of opportunities around there. All right, mate, talk us through what was one of the biggest ACL Elite upsets. Oh, well, upset. It was against a powerhouse side, but an Aussie is involved, and not only involved, scores the winning goal.
Yeah, we're talking about silverware. Tete Yengi is closing in on some silverware in Asia. He scored the winner in Matildas Albia's 1-0 win over Al Ittihad to progress to the semi-finals of the ACL Elite competition. Massive moment for Machida through the quarterfinals into the semi-finals, and what a moment for Tete Yengi. He was going okay at Livingston over in Scotland, and then kind of got frozen out, and then got moved away. But he's certainly found a home for himself over in Japan, and what an influence that he's having, scoring the winning goal, playing in those 85 minutes. And the way they're doing this ACL Elite, Mopper, is they're doing it the hub style. So these quarterfinals, semis, and finals are going to come in quick succession. And they next play AUE side Shabib Al Ali Dubai FC on Wednesday to make the final. And their opponents actually knocked out Burham United in the quarterfinals, who, of course, knocked out Melbourne City in the ACL Elite competition as well. So be a tough opposition for Machida Zelvia, but let's hope that Tete Yengi can have another fantastic performance and get his side through to the final. How cool would that be?
Oh, what a massive, massive result. They've come from nowhere, haven't they? And what a great move, obviously, in the January transfer window, because he was playing. So I don't know. I think it was his brother or someone, or one of his friends left
His
to
brother
go
was at
over
Aberdeen,
to Japan as well.
Cassini, and he's left as well. But yeah, both the Yengi boys have ended up in Asia. But yeah, Teddy's flying the flag in the ACL Elite competition.
Yeah, absolutely. He scored a lot of goals over in Livingston too, so big loss for them. But wow, he's moved on to greener pastures, and yeah, what an opportunity! Semi-final of ACL Elite, that's massive. So yeah, wish him all the best on Wednesday. Hopefully they can make the final. That'd be fantastic, and see an Aussie in the obviously Elite Champions League. That would be another great story. All right, mate. What about China? We've got a lot of Aussie coaches over there. What's the reports?
Yeah, let's go to my 71st minute penalty. Seeing John Aloisi's Cheng Di Rong Cheng, of course, pushed Shanghai Port all the way to the title last season. They won 1-0 and remain undefeated through 6 games to start the Chinese Super League season. They sit top with 5 wins and 1 draw. We know, of course, that through the off-season there were plenty of penalties and sanctions given to plenty of teams, which we'll get to in a sec. But obviously, John Aloisi's side has taken full advantage of that, and they've come flying out of the blocks. Great to see Aloisi getting this opportunity and really taking it with both hands, and currently sitting top of the league. It hasn't been so good for defending champion Shanghai Port. They drew 1-1 and have lost 3 matches, having only lost 4 all of last season. Kevin Muscat's side also started the season on -5 points and have plenty of work to do to defend their crown. And then we saw a head-to-head battle with Ross Aloisi and former Central Coast manager Nick Montgomery. Their sides, Zhejiang Professional and Beijing Guan, playing out a 0-0 draw. Those sides also started on -5 points for the season, but are slowly clawing their way up the table. So it's going to be a funny old season in China this year, I think, with all these penalties. There's still plenty of teams stuck on negative points through 6 games as well. So elsewhere in Asia, in Japan, Jason Geria provided an assist in Albirex Nagata's 1-0 win over FC Imabari. But plenty happening over in the MLS, Mopper.
Oh, what about this? He just is he is the new highlight reel package. Well, he's been doing it for the last 6 months, hasn't he? It's Lucas Harrington again provides an incredible assist in front of prestigious players, and wow, what another pass! But it's not enough. We must admit, as Colorado did fall 3-2 to Inter Miami, but I'm sure Messi, who scored twice in this game, would have looked on and went, "Whoa, that's a good one." No surprises that Harrington again completed the most passes and won the most duels. There is a thread here from Joseph Esposito, head of public relations and consumer growth at Brisbane Roar, which we'll read out. But what another great play from Lucas Harrington. His stock continues to rise. What are your thoughts on the assist to start with?
Well, I think we know his passing range is incredible, but it's the vision, it's the direction, it's the way to pass, to put it straight into his attacker's path and just run onto it. It's a 50, 55-meter pass, and yeah, he's just incredible player going from strength to strength. And I just wanted to pull out Joseph Esposito, who never met him in person, but he seems like a really top bloke. But there was plenty of chat this morning about the fact that Brisbane Roar have sold Lucas Harrington for just under $1 million, and what Colorado are potentially going to get for him. And he wanted to point out on X this afternoon that there's a significant sell-on in place, and as elite as Lucas is and will be, no player is leaving the A-League for $10 million right now, let alone a centre back. Hope's not always the case, but right now it is, which is, I think, is a fair point, just given that he had only played a handful of games. Lucas Harrington at the top level. Remember, before he'd even played one game, Ruben Zadkovic, the then Brisbane Roar coach, labelled him as the best defender in Australia. And, that definitely turned a few heads when people didn't know who Lucas Harrington was. But tell you what, Ruben might not have been too far off the mark with the way that this kid has just elevated to another level. And look, if someone mentioned a ballpark of sell-on fee of 30%, and, if Colorado do end up selling him for 10 million or so in the not too distant future, that's some good money coming in the door for Brisbane Roar, for one of their big talents who's come all the way through the Queensland system.
Oh, look, it's a great story. And look, the comments definitely validated. But in my argument in the other corner, around 800,000, Asia Cup winner, World Cup under 20s, was starring in the A-League. You've seen his impact. I think this is a long tail of Australian players being undersold for a number of years. Obviously, yes, you're right. It's not 10 million right now, but there's some opportunities where possibly we should be around that mark, and we've got to stop underselling some of our best talent. There's other ways of doing it. Obviously, not just the sell-on clause. Sell-on clause is good. We've seen a lot of Australian clubs do that. But what about incentives for if he gets to so many games and all that? I think these options, and look, I'm not privy to his contract, but I think we've got to squeeze everything out what we can. Appearances, if he makes Europe or wherever, there should always be more clauses, because that's what's happening over at the big leagues over there. They get all these add-ons and all these sell-ons if the player performs. And I think we can't forget those other clauses that we need to work on as A-League clubs, because we were criticised only a few months ago from the A-League transfer market bringing in such a whimper of a percentage. And although I get that, yes, he's young and he's on the rise and untried talent, we've certainly seen it in the last 12 months. And I do think America and Scotland especially are picking off our best young talent to make profit. There's no doubt about it. This is another proof of that argument. But yes, I do understand that there's no A-League for 10 million right now, but seriously start upping the stakes if they really want these players. We've seen a few clubs this year start to tie down players a little bit longer, 2 or 3 years, which is good. Hopefully that'll help leverage the challenge of those transfers. But I honestly, yes, I see the point, but I definitely see valid arguments against it as well.
Yeah, we don't. Obviously, Joseph is just addressing the particular issue around the transfer fee and the sell-on clause. So you might be right. Maybe there are these other bits and pieces in the contract as well, and we're probably never going to know the full details of what's involved. And let's just hope that Brisbane's done their due diligence And, I think, like, when he signed, he'd probably only played, I'm gonna guess, maybe 10 A-League games, whereas I compare him to someone like Irankunda, who had probably played 50 or 60 games for Adelaide United when he signed for Bayern Munich for round about 3 or 3.5 million or something like that. So it's a defender versus an attacker, and you've got significant number of more games and more proof points in there as well. But look, I take your point as well. We need to keep adding value, and I think the longer term contracts will help. And I think the success of players who go over there and thrive will also help in future fees as we go on too.
Yep, absolutely. Good, all good, valid arguments there, and I'm sure plenty of fans will have plenty of opinions on that one. All right, mates, let's keep going on America. On Wednesday, we've seen Nashville advance to the semi-final of CONCACAF Champions Cup as they become the first MLS side to win at the Estadio Azteca with a 1-0 win over CF America. Patrick Yazbek played 71 minutes in this game, and it was a great win for the side, who will now face Mexican side Tigres, who we've heard of before. 24 minutes today for Yazbek, also in their 2-0 win over Atlanta. And Chief, what about our young prestigious talent, Archie Goodwin? Give us a wrap on his form this week.
Yeah, I just want to firstly say, well done to Patrick Yazbek and his side. That's a significant achievement, and all the best in their next game as well. But yeah, midweek, Archie Goodwin scored his 4th goal in his last 84 minutes of football as Charlotte FC thrash Charlotte Independent 6-0. And while it was a blowout against weaker opposition, if you go back and look at the goal, which we reposted on X during the week, it just shows Goodwin's raw speed in the open field, which is one of the best features of last season that led him to jointly winning the A-League Men's Golden Boot with Adrian Segacic. Yeah, he just burst the speed, and he just got in front of his defender. It was a tap in the end, but I don't think a lot of players would have even been able to get in that position. And just so good to see him playing. Hopefully, he stays injury free, which we know has been an issue with him in the past. But yeah, these goals can only do him the world of good. He got 30 minutes again off the bench today. His side's 2-1 win over Kai Truan's New York City, with Truan playing 86 minutes. Midweek, Kai Truan played 90 minutes in New York's 5-2 win as well. But I know you're a huge fan of Archie Goodwin, and how good is it? Just 4 goals in 84 minutes is quite significant, and it just shows he's really taking his opportunities.
Oh, geez. We've seen it last year, didn't we? The potential, the ability. I want to see a little bit more. Come on, Socceroos. I've been calling out for it for the last 12 months for him to get an opportunity. And again, he's had to bide his time, though, but he's learning behind some pretty good stalwarts there at Charlotte. They've got a fantastic side, and he's going to really ramp up his opportunities if he keeps doing what he's doing now. He's a great player, great one for the future. So we wish him all the best, and just goes to show how hard it is to break into that starting 11 with Charlotte's. It's a pretty hot side, so he'll be learning off some good ones there. Don't you worry about that. So all the best for the obviously the MLS season, who it's only just kicked off a few weeks ago. Also, too, midweek, we're seeing Kai Rolls, DC United, knocked out on penalties by US League One side Knoxville SC after the match finished 3-3. Toddy Rolls also played a full game in his side's 0-0 with Philadelphia. And today we've seen Alex Bonateg play 80 minutes in Portland's 2-0 loss in Minnesota.
All right, Mopper, let's look at some news from our national teams, starting with the Matildas, who had a 2-0 win in the final of their FIFA series against Korea, with goals from Claire Wheeler and Sam Kerr in front of 20,000 supporters. A milestone for Alana Kennedy, becoming the 5th Matilda to reach 150 caps. And Sam Kerr's goal also makes it 75 for the Matildas, 25 clear of the next best 4 international goals being Tim Cahill, and Amy Sayer was awarded the player of the FIFA series. So nice little hit out for the Matildas. Definitely a big gulf in terms of opposition that they face. You can see that even if you just skim the highlights packages and see some of the goals that were conceded by the Matildas opposition, but all building again towards the World Cup for the Matildas next year.
Yep, another good step. And like you said, we've seen a few fringe players in the Aussie Cup get some more game time. As you've seen, Amy Sayer, player of the tournament there, it just goes to show that the next in line, next gen's coming through well. So good luck. Well done to the Matildas on a good little hit out there. All right, mate, it's Socceroo time. And let's announce the last hit out.
Yeah, during the week, the Socceroos have announced that they will be playing Switzerland before the World Cup. They've already announced, obviously, they're playing Mexico. So building up quite a significant opposition base coming into the World Cup, and it's going to prove a very big test for them taking on Switzerland, who are ranked 19th in the world. They are going to be in Group B in the World Cup with Bosnia Herzegovina, Canada, and Qatar, which I think it's a good chance for them to actually top that group. Not the strongest group by any stretch. They topped Group B in World Cup qualifying, beating out Kosovo, Slovenia, and Sweden. They were undefeated, scoring 14 goals and conceding only 2. But again, I don't think that was the strongest group for them to come through, although they did it quite easily. Last window, they lost 4-3 to Germany and they drew 0-0 with Norway. Some players to keep an eye out for: Gregor Kobel, who's a keeper at Borussia Dortmund; Johan Menzambi, midfielder at Freiburg. Big raps on this kid, mate. Up and comer from Freiburg. Plenty of the good teams looking at him, including Bayern and PSG. We've got Dan Ndoye, who's a winger from Notts Forest; Arden Jashari, who's a Milan midfielder; Manuel Akanji into defender; Noah Okafor, a winger at Leeds; and plenty would be familiar with Granit Xhaka, who's a midfielder at Sunderland. So it'll be a very stiff test for the Socceroos coming in, and good preparation, no doubt, with this game against Switzerland and also Mexico.
Yeah, perfect camp selection. Great 2 friendlies. They're hot top teams, aren't they? And our preparation for this is leading up fantastically. I think they've done well, Football Australia, to secure these 2 nations. They're right at the top of the tree, and they'll get us primed for our big first leg against, obviously, Turkey. So well done, Football Australia. I think everything's coming along very nicely. And a lot of players, too, are getting some good time as we await this next selection for the World Cup, which is obviously the next one on our radar.
I don't know if it was ever
Obviously,
option in the mix, but I think it's smart to pick teams around this level as opposed to a Spain or a Brazil or a France heading into the tournament, because you want a tough challenge, but you also don't want to be demoralized coming into these tournaments as well, which is unlikely against teams. Like, even if we were to be on the wrong side of a result, you wouldn't think it would be a significant result. So I think, smart picking these types of opponents coming into the World Cup.
Yeah, I think Switzerland's like in preparation for Turkey, a European-based team, and I think Mexico is trying to set us up against the South American team, because that Mexico, to me, North America, South America, they're kind of similar style. So I think to get ready for those 2 games, I think, perfect choice. And 100%. So we've done well, and you're 100% right in your comment about making sure we pick this probably the second tier elite. You're spot on. So no, this is great. This is building up nicely, and we're going to have every opportunity, aren't we, with this camp and these 2 games under our belt. All right, mate, let's go on to the Matildas under-20s. We were recording last week when this quarterfinal was on, and they've missed out, unfortunately, on a World Cup due to their loss in the quarterfinals against North Korea 3-0, who have obviously, a very elite side, aren't they, with Japan? We probably played Japan, got towed up a bit, and North Korea, dominated us a bit, although we did show plenty of fight. Unfortunately, though, the outcome of this is we've missed now the World Cup, and this is not the first time we've missed the World Cup, and this is the problem. We've only qualified twice in the last 9 attempts at under-20 level, and this is not a good sign for me. And I raised the question, is our semi-professional league or lack of investment or not playing high enough caliber at the younger age groups costing us? Or do we need to develop the quality at younger age groups? So I know we've seen the emerging Matildas and, all the excitement out of that, and it's a great stepping stone. But again, from 15, 16, who are these girls playing in the next 2 years? They're going to develop that next level, which is the elite level. And you only have to look at the competitions over in Europe, under 17, under 19 level, and the caliber of European championships and European club football, and we're a mile off that to start with without even looking at the best practice.
Yeah, it's a real challenge for us as to what we do. Yeah, obviously we saw the report from PFA imploring all the stakeholders involved to move to a full professional league. Obviously, we're talking about an under 20 level. So, a lot of these players are going to be playing in the local leagues as opposed to overseas. So, it's really a reflection on the league. And, we've seen it in both the men's and the women's competition locally that we kind of tending to go younger or trending going younger and younger. So, is it a challenge of, not enough, if we think about the players that are coming in at the A-League women's competition, are they playing against just players of their age group? And we're seeing the young talent and we're not seeing enough of the kind of elite players, maybe around the kind of 23, 24, 25, just hanging on a bit longer before they go overseas because they can be financially secure in the A-League women's competition, or it's enough of a challenge for them. Potentially that's what it is. But yeah, it's not a good trend that we're seeing. And we're seeing this with the 17s as well around these age groups that we're just don't seem to be pushing forward. And when you do see the likes of Japan and North Korea and South Korea, probably in particular, but if the trend continues, it might not be too long before some of these other countries catch up to us as well, which is a bit frightening as we look forward to try and qualify for these tournaments.
You see, Matilda's very lucky in the Asia Cup to beat North Korea, and we know the nemesis, how many times Japan's beaten us in key matches. I think it's time, not just for the full professional of the Ninja A-League, but these girls need higher caliber football on an international stage between the ages of 15 to 17 or 15 to 19, because you can't take them overseas to the Pacific nations. It's not good enough. We need European or Asia top level, and they need a brand of football and a style that they can follow, because technically the sides just looked tenfolds above, and we seem to be able to produce the individuals. This is not something that's new. Like, you think about the players that would have been in that 7 out of 9 that failed. We're talking about players of higher caliber that did make it on the international stage. But if we continue to fall behind, it's not going to look pretty. We've seen what happened to the men's and the large gap in young footballers and taking that next step. So it's a massive problem underneath that they have to face.
So if it's the team performance as opposed to the players that we're producing, it's more about getting them together more often than actually the talent that we're developing locally, you would say.
Well, look what happened to the under-20s when I'm talking about the men's football now, and what they did strategically to prepare for the Asia Cup and World Cup, playing against South American teams, top level tier football teams. Why isn't it spread throughout both genders, and why isn't it why are we just picking one over the other? Maybe it's a logistic thing, I don't know, but it needs to be a holistic approach on all age levels. We've seen us barely compete. The 20s probably highlighted our best result in youth team football in a very, very long time, and there is a next gen coming through with these players, but we need to get both genders right, because you can't just not make big tournaments at this age group at this level.
I do remember not too long ago that one of our underage women's teams playing a series at home. Can't remember the exact country. It was definitely somewhere in the Southeast Asian region, but potentially those ones need to be either traveling overseas, or if we are to host, bring in some stronger nations, because you got to think that every time there's a international window for the women's, there's an opportunity there to take your best under 20s or under 17s somewhere or be hosting a tournament. There's a window where there's no club football, and shouldn't be too many reasons why we can't do those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the academies take there, and this is the big thing in Australian football, but it's at the cost of the families, these academies travelling and playing these clubs. But I think the cost at the bigger level, where if they can unearth this, they've got to get some cost factor into these supporting these emerging Matildas now and taking them at least to Asia to experience top level football of the top 4 or 5 nations over there. There's no point playing lower tier competition, because if that's the standard, then what are you going to gauge yourself on? They need to be tested, and we've seen a lot of great young talent, but they need to be put in a system. They need to be put in a formation that matches the Matildas' style. And I think Joe would agree that these next levels are crucial for the next 4 to 8 years of the Matildas being successful. And we'd hate to see a drop off there, because you've seen how big world football is with women right now, and it is growing at an absolute ginormous rate. And we will get left behind if we don't do something about it ASAP. And I know the pipeline's in works, but how long are we going to have to wait before these emerging Matildas get put together in a philosophy, in a team format where they can travel and play the best of the best?
I think it's a great point you make around Joe Montemurro as well, and thinking about the wider picture in terms of coaches that fit the style of play that the Matildas want to play, as opposed to new coaches coming in each time and imprinting their philosophy or their style of game, because it makes it too disruptive to be doing that every time you're changing Matilda's coach, to be able to go down all the levels and go, okay, now we're changing the way that we're playing as well. And we've seen it obviously at many clubs and in countries in the past as well. And we've even had this chat about the Socceroos too, and how they play differently to, say the Joeys or the young Socceroos too. But yeah, having a style that is ours, that is an Australian style, and then you can flood that through the lower levels, and then it's not such a significant step up when you come up into the full national team, because you've been playing that style of football or that brand of football for the past 5, 6, 7 years that you've been in the system as well. So yeah, fascinating conversation, and let's hope that in the future we can turn around some of these tournament results and have them going the right way.
Yep, absolutely. We can't afford not to qualify and get these girls the best opportunity to succeed on the international stage. All right, let's finish it up. Joey's beat Singapore 1-0. Luke Besovnovsky, knocking in the win after great work from Joseph Sikora. That was a great little build-up by Joseph, setting Luke up, and great 1-0 win against Singapore in the Asian finals over there. So they're still playing. So yeah, good luck to those boys over there at the moment, the Joeys.
All right, mate, let's turn our attention to the A-League men's competition. Fascinating penultimate round that just has finished. And let's start with the race for the Premier's Plate. It all kicked off on Friday night as Melbourne Victory hosted the Newcastle Jets. Victory playing a back five, looking to get some width through Franco Leno on one side and Josh Rawlins on the other side. And it did pay dividends, but we'll get to that in just a second, because it was Eli Adams opening the scoring with a shot from distance, which Mopper labelled a boring goal. Do you want to explain that one to me, mate?
Did I label that as a boring goal? No, I was just winding him up. Just winding him up. Eli, just obviously we're seeing so many specials from Eli Adams this year. So yeah, it was tongue in cheek, mate. It was nothing in.
If it doesn't go in the top corner from Eli Adams, it doesn't count. Victory hit back with 2 goals in 3 minutes through Charles Nduka to take a 2-1 lead into half-time, with both those goals being assisted by the Victory wing backs. So yeah, game on, 2-1. The Jets dominated possession in the second half, but Victory had more shots. With James Delianov, I think he only made 3 saves for the whole game, but some of them were absolutely blinders, saving the Jets on several occasions. Jordi Valadon, He had one saved. I think he missed one at close range. He had one cleared off the line. Don't know how he didn't score his first goal of the season, but was denied by the Jets defence. And then just as it looked like the home team were going to take all 3 points, a brilliant piece of skill from Lockie Bayliss. What a season he has had. Wins his team penalty, and the former Victory player Eli Adams completed his brace from the spot and let the home fans know all about it. Not just on that occasion, a few minutes later as well. Xavier Bertoncello had a chance to win it in stoppage time, but he crashed his shot against the bar. It's the 13th time the Jets have scored in the last 15 minutes of a game. You certainly cannot write them off. And yeah, what a game that was, and what a result that proved to be, because just this afternoon, the irony of the Mariners beating Auckland 1-0, which meant that the Newcastle Jets won the Premier's Plate Mopper. I could not help but think about Tottenham playing against Manchester City a couple of seasons back, and then or certain sections of fans wanting them to throw the game so that Arsenal couldn't win the title. But not the case. The Mariners weren't worried about that at all, and they've gone and done the job in Auckland this afternoon.
Well, the Mariners have got much more character, much more resilience than that, Chief. They've been through a lot. They've been through a lot more than what Spurs is about to go through, let me tell you. But honestly, when I missed this game, and I had 10 messages on my phone this afternoon. I checked that and I went, no way. But they've done it again, the Mariners. They just keep on keeping on, don't they? And look, it's before we go to the obviously the Premier's Plate. Look, Central Coast. I earmarked this before. What a great year. I know, obviously, they've got 32 points and they're going to just miss out on the finals. But look, they had 26 points last year, and they've got one more to play, obviously, with that 32 points next week against Newcastle, who are obviously the champions. But 26 points last year. They only won 5 times last year, a lot of draws, and all the problems they had in pre-season. And then they go over to Auckland in what they would have known as, well, nothing. It's a nothing game, really, because they're already out of the finals race. But then to put a performance like that just goes to show the true character of what this club is. And again, look, that other club you mentioned, they're in, wouldn't even have 5% of what the Mariners have. Forget about the financial disparity between them. But unbelievable result. And Auckland were just stunned. And those few injuries will probably cost them at the end of the season. But let's go back to the outcome of this and Newcastle themselves. So the Jets finished 9th last year, 30 points, 8 wins. There was promise there. You could see the potential. And again, they won the Hahn Cup, obviously, to qualify for Asia Cup 2. But now they've surpassed that by winning the league. So what a performance. Now they're in Asia Elite. They've obviously had to deal with a few heartbreaks, because if you look at the Jets, they come off that massive high, and we thought, where does this land the Jets throughout the year, though, after the pre-season? And everyone was like, yep, they should improve. They should make the playoffs. They're around about that mark. And after 5 games, they were last. Only won 1 game, and they were last. And then that massive injury toll that they had to key players in Badalado was absolutely, would have been heartbreaking for the club. But it was that wet and windy place over in Auckland and Wellington where everyone would have wrote them off, but they won. And then they come back and they were a bit inconsistent again, but then January they went on that massive run. And I think that's what's won them the title. That run in January onwards, where they nearly broke the record, has set this season up, and they've stayed on top. They've played the best football, and they've been the most exciting. And the reason why they've scored those goals in the last 15 minutes is because of that attitude. And credit goes to Mark Milligan. He's received a lot of plaudits already. He doesn't need my additional plaudits because he's a fantastic coach. But credit to all the players in the club who Oscar Fry was another one. I think they lost early in the year as well to a season-ending injury, and they had their defensive midfielder out for a couple of months as well. All these
Christian
players have
Bracco
really
went
bought
down in the
in.
same game that Badalado
Yeah,
went down as
yeah,
well. Yeah, like, yeah.
yeah. And their injury list was massive, and this is probably why they've last 6 games they've only won twice and drawn twice and lost twice, but they had enough in the tank, and their fellow Mariners who would have thought that round one game where that last minute goal from the Mariners, and then they've done them a favour by winning 1-0 over Auckland. So again, they may be arch rivals, but a great community of football, and both clubs should be applauded for their season. But hats off to the Jets, an absolute magnificent performance. I know they've lost a key player already. I just hope they don't lose Milligan and some more key players before they go into that ACL elite, because it would be very exciting to see this club battle on all three fronts next year, and that's Hahn Cup, ACL elite, and the A-League, because that's where they deserve to be after such a fantastic year.
Yeah, well, what about their chances of winning the treble? Only a couple of seasons after the Mariners did their own treble. This one would obviously be a domestic one, as opposed to a continental treble. But yeah, what a fantastic achievement for the Jets. And yeah, I pointed out the same thing to someone this afternoon, that it was really, they haven't been at their best the last 6-7 weeks or so, but it was really those games at the turn of 2026 when they laid their platform for themselves and really got out in front and basically said, catch us if you can, from that point. The Mariners v Auckland game this afternoon, very spicy one, considering, particularly for the Mariners, that they played with a bit of freedom. They knew they had nothing to lose. But yeah, some fiery contest there. James Donachie, with a little stamp on the back of Sam Cosgrove, was reviewed for a red card, only given a yellow, probably more of a cheeky one than a malicious one, but probably in some people's eyes lucky to stay on the pitch. And then the goal from the Mariners on the break, Jesse Mantell, the 18-year-old Dynamo, played in Nathaniel Blair, who squared it across to Ali Orgler through Dan Hall's legs, who fired at home. And then there was a big lightning delay for a significant amount of time in the first half. So had a bit of everything in this game, and Auckland put plenty of pressure on them late, but couldn't find the breakthrough. But yeah, well done to the Jets. And I'll tell you what, the Auckland FC, when we look at the table, when we finalise the rounds, they're no guarantee of maintaining their top two spot, and they could fall as low as fourth if they can't get over Sydney FC next weekend, which is a fascinating last round. Stevie Corrick wasn't on the sideline today after his red card last week, but I imagine he'll be back on the sideline next week to face his former side. Michael Voward back in goals for Auckland FC this afternoon. So good that he's recovered from his injury. But yeah, plenty to play for Auckland FC. And look, as we move on to the next game, which is Sydney FC, geez, they'll be kicking themselves, because if they could have managed to get a win against Perth Glory last night, they could have been putting all kinds of pressure on Auckland coming into the last round, and actually would have been in their hands if they got the result over Auckland FC. They would have been in the prime position to jump ahead of them.
Oh, look, Sydney FC, it's been that type of year. It's been all over the place. And again, last night when they needed to step up, they didn't. And just a quick note on Ali Elglar, top goal scorer in the National League second tier or competition that was created, jumps in the Central Coast Mariners, now Iraq nationality, is potentially could be going to the World Cup. What about that for a story? So yeah, no matter what pyramid you're lying on, that's where he started. And yeah, look at the future now, and scores the goal against Auckland. It cost them obviously a potential shot at the title. So what a story that is. Yeah, Sydney FC. Well, I'm not surprised. Every time they needed something, Sydney, there's always something missing, isn't there? And this has been not a Tale problem. It's just been a club problem. And once again, their performance against Perth, well, it just goes to show how disjointed they can be. They can be great. They can be ordinary. I even probably should have had a send off as well. That 2-footed challenge, that was terrible. That should have been a red card. And I think, the end of the, I think at the end there they said, "What do you think about the challenge?" I think Perth Glory's coach handled himself well, because I think if he said what he really felt, it should have been a definite red card. But again, yeah, Sydney FC just again not at the races, and like it was like last year, isn't it, where they had that win that final game and they've missed, and now they've had a great opportunity to climb and they didn't. They've had some ordinary results, and in there somewhere it's going to be an interesting final series for them, I tell you. And yeah, playing Auckland in a crucial game, and I think there's another crucial game too. Melbourne City versus Adelaide. They're the last two games of the A League next week. So yeah, it's going to be all down to that. The second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth all could change in a heartbeat. So just a quick one too on Perth. Well, they finished on 28 points with one game to go, and credit to them too, because they also had a challenge, didn't they? But they improved as well, mate, and you can't discount that. You know, their season last year was terrible, second last, and they've improved as well. So look, they've still got decisions to make, but at least they're still competitive. But for me, you can analyse the game all you like, but 0-0 just shows me where Sydney FC are at.
Yeah, well, it's Patrick Kisnorbo. He's had 2-0 draws in his first 3 games in charge of Sydney FC. And if you look at it as glass half full, add in the 2-0 win over the Wanderers, it's 3 clean sheets. So potentially you could argue that he's made them more defensively solid, but certainly not in front of goal is where they're being significantly better than their opposition at the moment. And look, even their opposition that they've had those 0-0 draws against in Brisbane, who should have won that game, and even Perth Glory, even though they didn't create too many chances, they certainly had them under the pump late on in the game last night, and very well could have jagged a winner. Despotovsky put one over the bar. Adam Taggart missed a couple of chances as well. And really, they were putting plenty of pressure on Harrison Devonish-Mears. There was an interesting moment later on in the game as well. Al-Hassan Toure, when he was taken off, didn't like that at all and threw his bib on the ground. And yeah, he wasn't hiding his thoughts on being taken off. And not the first time we've seen a little flashpoint between Al-Hassan Toure and the manager on the sideline for Sydney FC. So I don't know. They're a hard one to pick, Sydney FC. I just can't see them going deep into the finals, no matter where they finish. They'd have to pull out some significant results. But tell you what, if they turn out some of these performances against some quality opposition in the finals, I can see them going out quite quickly.
Yeah, look, if you look at the last 10 games, I think Melbourne City are number 1 on the table. They're red hot. Adelaide are red hot. Melbourne Victory, when they get Marta back, is still a formidable opposition. That's potentially who they're going to be playing, depending on the result, obviously, against Auckland. But yeah, it'd be interesting how Auckland react. But again, all the play for Auckland, they need second spot to wrap up a home final. Oh well, it's over 2 legs, I should say. But they'll have the last leg at home in Auckland in front of a big crowd, so advantage to probably those ones who believe in that system. But yeah, they wouldn't want to fall down into that elimination final. So yeah, it's a massive game. So yeah, a lot to play for. Again, bit of ill discipline. It just doesn't. The unity's not there, is it? And 71% possession, they still couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. So, yep, interesting, but they are capable, and yeah, it's you just don't know what side you're going to get with them, and it'll be very interesting going into the final game how they react next week. They are at home, which is an advantage to them. But Auckland have, I think, the last couple of times they've played them, beat them and showed their quality, Auckland. But we'll have to wait and see next week and watch it all unfold.
Absolutely, mate. All right, take us through Wellington versus the Wanderers. This one was played in Christchurch.
Yeah, what a great crowd in Christchurch, again, showing their love for football. Wellington, obviously, at this stage, needed to win to keep their slim finals hopes alive. Obviously, they were playing before the Roar and the City. And the Wanderers, well, they were hoping to win so they didn't get the wooden spoon. So, obviously, it was a little bit to play for. Eze scored his 10th goal this season. He's a quality striker to put the Knicks up in front, 1-0 in front of a strong crowd when he headed home from a Tim Payne cross. He's a quality player, Tim Payne. But the Knicks switched off just before half-time when Angus Sergate found Borello, who squeezed the ball past Josh Aluem to equalise. The second half then, it was end to end. Wellington got off to a great start though. They were dominating, but the football was free flowing, and it was Kazaki Nagasawa who put the Knicks ahead with a bullet header, and it was a great cross from none other than the man himself, Tim Payne, for his second assist of the night. It sent the 11,066 crowd in the Ruptures. It was the second biggest crowd of Wellington's season, so great move moving it to Christchurch, and great to see that they supported Wellington as well. Fraser, he had a good few looks at goal in the second half, and Wanderers were trying to avoid obviously their first ever wooden spoon, but what a finish it was as the Knicks made a late save too to hold on, and it was just Wanderers probably should have scored it. It was a last minute save, and now they closed within 2 of City just before the kickoff against the Raw, which was just underway 10 minutes later. So overall for that game, the Wanderers take out the spoon, and what a difference from last season in this one with 1 round to go. They were 4th last season, 12th this season, conceded 1 more goal, so it wasn't a defence, 41-40, but last year they had all the guns, didn't they, scoring the goals, 58 goals last season, and a league high, to scoring only 27 goals this season, second worst behind Brisbane on 26, but also 4 behind Sydney FC's 31 and 5 behind Melbourne City's 32. So we said it from the start that in our preview before the season even started, there was goal scoring problems in this one. They couldn't get their shape right, I believed, in that first half of the year. Then it cost the coach the job, and they just haven't improved, and they've just imploded right to the end. And when the men's and the women's, it's a poor look, isn't it, from the Western Sydney Wanderers, who would classify themselves as a big club, but unfortunately the work off the scene from top to bottom needs a full review, and we know Tale's the first one in, and obviously they brought in a director of football as well. So, but there's a lot more work to do for this playing squad.
Yeah, you can see from those stats there that, as you pointed out, it's not necessarily the defence that's the problem. It's the fact that they scored 31 goals less this season than they did last season, and obviously losing the likes of Sapsford up top there, and Antonsen and Milanovic as well, who contributed so many goals for them, and they just haven't been adequately replaced. We've said that so many times throughout the season, but you see also that they're not that far behind Sydney FC's 31 and Melbourne City's 32 goals, and they're obviously right in the mix. So it's kind of like it is the total amount of goals they scored, but sometimes it's the times you're scoring the goals as well. We've seen Melbourne City in particular being classics for getting the 1-0 wins or the 2-1 wins throughout the season, and just being able to manage games and doing it well. But the Wanderers have just been so far off that mark, and even their goals, a lot of them just been consolations as well. And I think I'm thinking about 2 of their games in particular. They scored early in the season. I think they scored a 3-1 or 3-2 win over the Mariners, and they scored a 4-0 win over MacArthur. So 7 of those 27 goals this season have come across 2 games. So it really doesn't leave a lot for the rest of the season, and they've just been so poor. And I just added in a quick stat there: the touches in opposition box, they're 3rd in the league. So it just shows that they can get there, and I think they were 7th in XG in the total of the league. So it shows that they can get into the right areas. And I made the point over the weekend to someone that, imagine if they had someone like a Nafanya Eze that Wellington's had this season, and he hasn't had the best service. He's made a lot of the goals himself, but you put him in a Wanderers team, and you just don't know what their season could have turned out like. So, but they have some quality there, and the striker or the attacking options just haven't been able to put the ball in the back of the net, and it's really cost them this season.
Yeah, and it's been a bit of a drop off with the change in the guard and as well, hasn't it? It's been an attitude problem by the looks of it. Van Egmond called that out. So they've got to get, I think they're about 15, 16 players off contract too, so they've got a lot to sort out. Look, there's a long off season. That does help A-Leagues. So they're finished pretty much at the end of this week, and not due back for a while. But yeah, they're going to have to wait too, aren't they, for seasons to finish? Then they've got World Cup, so it'll be a hard market to get into. They've got some good youth underneath. They've got a great system out there, but again, it's just top not talking to the bottom and the bottom not talking to the top. And I think they've just got the wrong characters in around them. And look, the A-League doesn't penalise you for getting the wooden spoon. It's just more embarrassing. But until that punishment comes, it's just another year wasted, I think, for the Wanderers, and they'll have to bounce back next year like the other clubs have done so this year. So anyway, let's move on to that next game that we were talking about, because all the finals were hinged on this outcome. And Brisbane City and at Brisbane, it was a beautiful Anzac Day tribute to before the game, which was well done by Brisbane. And then obviously City, the consequences, they can wrap up their playoff spot with a win and a possible draw. They'll have to do it without Teague, sorry. But if you look at the City's bench and you wonder why in the last 6-7 rounds they're top of the table, it was stunning what was on the bench of the City side. So full of riches. All right, let's get into the game and the reaction. So Kuhn obviously had his first real opportunity as the ball was carelessly given away by Bizanis. I don't know what he was doing, but anyway, passed it straight to him pretty much. But he obviously had to save the rebound. Then Romani, he smashes the crossbar. He had a great game, and he looks a really prestigious talent. Then Yunus puts the ball in the back of the net, but was chalked off for a foul. So on Bizanis, but that was a bit of a strange one. I thought that goal should have probably stood. And then, it was Yunus again who was stinging the palms of the keeper again just not long ago in a half that was full of knocks and full of excitement. The City were pretty much dominating. But then at the end of the first half against the runner play, a deflected shot from Burgess, and it falls right to Vidic for the opening goal as, Wellington and MacArthur fans cheered louder than ever and went up as one, as somehow Brisbane went into the break 1-0 up. Second half, though, half chances to both teams until Yunus, well, he was the man of the moment. He creates a moment in the box and gets a penalty in the 58th minute, and he steps up and eases it past Bizanis again at 1-1. Then the Yunus show, it just continues as Mehmeti shoots and save, but on hand is the wizard. Yunus nicely placed volley, puts City 2-1 up, and they were all but cruising. But then Brisbane had a half shout for a penalty in the 70th minute. Vidic, he did get taken down in the box, but he lost control of the ball at the same time. So it was a bit dubious, but Brisbane were coming alive. But the class of City just brought on some more subs, and Rashani sets up Mehmeti, who come on. He was one of those subs, and it was 3-1 before you knew it. And the game was pretty much gone in a nice build-up and showing the depth of talent that they have. And then Brisbane again showed late again with a goal of the year contender from Salas. What a goal that was from outside the box, smacked it in the top corner. And then Klein, nearly a spectacular goal, but fell short. They had a couple of great opportunities to get the draw raw and would have had MacArthur and Wellington on the edge of their seats. But City were just too classy in this one, and depth prevailed. And City wrap it up. And like I said, have been the informed team of the A-League.
Yeah, they have been performing very well of late, and just when we thought that they might be missing final, they've stormed right in. And at one point there on Saturday nights, they were sitting third in the table, unbelievable from where they had been. But they've since been overtaken in that spot, but certainly entrenched themselves right into the playoffs, and they're going to be a very tricky opposition for whoever they face in week one of the finals. What about Marcus Yunus? Continues to go from strength to strength since his loan move from Brøndby out to Melbourne City, and what a significant move that has been, and what an addition he has been for Aurelio Vidmar's side in the back end of this season. Really the one that's contributing so many moments, goals and assists, and just can't think of how many times that he put balls on the platter for his teammates and they haven't been able to convert. So his stats could look even better if some better finishing had come about. But yeah, City are going to be so tough to face in these finals. Let's not forget that they are the defending champions, and they'll have eyes on defending that crown for sure.
Yeah, you just have to look at their bench. Caputo, Lecky's back now. The players that they're bringing on were just, and look, Yunus, credit to him. He had to make a decision, didn't he? He knew he had to make it because obviously the World Cup year, and he backed himself to come back here and get some game time instead of just sitting on the edges of Bromby, which a few players have done in the last chance. But geez, he looks a class above in this A-League, doesn't he? And his qualities far outweighing what this league has to offer. I don't think City will hold on to him for another year. I think he'll go back to Bromby or move on from there. But the potential now is we haven't seen much of him under Tony Popovic. Will he sneak in as one of those X factors will be probably the only question left, because I think we know he's going to light up these A-League finals.
I think you'd have to have a fantastic A-League final series. You'd have to have an absolute stormer to be able to break into that Socceroos World Cup squad now. But there's certainly plenty of people calling for his inclusion. I suppose he kind of throws up those kind of names like is he going kind of, I don't know, head to head with an A1 Mobile, that kind of profile of player. I suppose and depending on where you sit on those kinds of arguments, some people would have him in, some people would have others in, but certainly he can't do much more to put himself in front of Tony Popovic the way he's going at the moment.
Absolutely. All right, and then we had the final game that obviously didn't mean much in the end, but for Adelaide it did. And they come from behind to beat Macarthur and stay in the race to finish second. They're a dynamite over there in Coopers, and even falling behind didn't worry them. They come back and won 3-1. So well done to Adelaide. They're in hot form as well. They're one of the teams that are up there with Melbourne City storming home and providing great football for those Adelaide home crowd.
Yeah, again, it's going to be another tough team to face in the finals, particularly if they get to host at Cooper Stadium, which no doubt will be packed to the rafters. This one, as I said, it was a come from behind win. Mitch Duke opened the scoring in the 7th minute before Anselmo got the equaliser in the 63rd minute. Panagiotis Kikianis put them ahead in the 75th minute, 2-1, and then Anselmo got his second and put the icing on the cake for Adelaide United in front of a strong crowd there at Cooper Stadium. Obviously, Macarthur couldn't make finals after some of the earlier results in the round, but with the result, Adelaide move up to third. And as I said before, plenty of pressure on Auckland FC. So if Sydney FC can get the win and Adelaide United can also win, Adelaide United will jump into second spot. And depending on the margin of Sydney FC's win over Auckland FC, we could either see Auckland drop down to third or even a fourth, or could be further, but would take a very big goal difference swing from Melbourne City. But still, we've got our top 6 finalised. We've got the Jets, Auckland FC, Adelaide United, Sydney FC, Melbourne City, and Melbourne Victory. Now it's just about the order that each of them fall in, and which ones are going into those elimination finals and which ones are getting a week off in week 1 of the finals.
Yeah, definitely. Melbourne City play Adelaide last on Sunday at 5 o'clock. So that game will know what result is needed for those sides to finish and who gets that all-important home final. All right, mate. Let's wrap up the emerging Matildas with a quick shout-out to all the under-16, under-15 girls that had a great hit out. The under-16 champions were Western Australia, beating Victoria Blue 2-0. What a great story for Western Australia. Fantastic result. And under-15 champions were New South Wales Sky, beating Queensland 3-1 in a great performance. So under-15 comeback player of the tournament was Evie Murphy from Football New South Wales Sky. In the under-16s, the Commonwealth player of the tournament, Tessa Young from Football New South Wales Sky. If we look at the Golden Boots, the under-15 winner was Selena Mufsud from New South Wales Sky, and under-16 Golden Boot winner Sophie Ungle from Football New South Wales Sky as well. So a lot of representation there from Football New South Wales Sky. In the final, the MVP, Selena Mufsud again for New South Wales Sky, and under-16 MVP of the final, Mila Butler from Football West. So goalkeeper of the tournament, seen Charlotte Lacey from Football Queensland Maroon. Under-16 goalkeeper of the tournament, Zoe Reader from Football Queensland. And under-15 referee of the tournament, can't forget the referees too, was Isabella Walsh from Northern New South Wales Football. And under-16's referee of the tournament, Anna Lepikos, Football Victoria. So overall, there was the under-15 coach tournament. winner as well, Anissa Tan, and under-16 coach of the tournament was Sebastian Zankin from Football Vic Blue. So what a great emerging Matildas that is. That's the second year of the concept. Now we're just hoping for, hopefully, Football Australia to invest in those 15, 16-year-olds and get some game time at the elite, probably squad that they've seen in the 15s, 16s. Because I think once they do that, I think this concept will build even further and get that carrot for those girls to get really step up to that next level before just being put in an under 17s, camp and just going bang. We've got to try to qualify for the Asian World Cup. That's what I want to see next in that 1 to 2 year gap before they hit 17.
We also look forward to seeing
oh,
some of these young ladies breaking into the A-League women's competition in the not too distant future as well. So well done to everyone who competed, and particularly the winning teams and the winning individuals who took out those awards.
absolutely. And all the players that competed, well done on representing your zones and states. Terrific, amount of volunteers, parents, family, and obviously support those young girls to give them the best opportunity in football itself. All right, mate. Team of the week time.
All right, mate. Joe Gauci, the miracle man, trying to perform the Great Escape with Port Vale. He's in the sticks this week. Alessandro Ciccardi, Lucas Harrington, and Panagiotis Kikianis in the back line. What a three that would be. Alex Robertson, our promoted superstar. Josh Nisbet, his solo run and goal. Patrick Yazbek going from strength to strength at Nashville. Marcus Eunice and FIFA Series tournament player of the tournament, Amy Sayer in the midfield, and then Magical Mohamed Toure and Tete Yengi up front. Plenty of options here for your super sub for you this week, Mop, because there are some outstanding performances who haven't made the team of the week.
Oh, absolutely. There was a bucket load, and well done. That's a hot 11, isn't it? They showed some great goals and great form. But I can't go past party man Cam Pubion, who we've seen celebrating midweek with the home fans. And then what do you know? They just back it up again with an assist and a full game on the weekend, 5-1 winners. I can't go past. Congratulations, Cam Pubion. You will be in the Eredivisie next year in the top division. So exciting times for Cam. Gets my nod of the week. And you're right, there has been some very unlucky players who have had a great week in Australian football to miss out on this team.
Absolutely, mate. Well done. As I said, big game tonight in the Championship. Ipswich hosting Middlesbrough. Let's hope that Riley McGree and Sammy Silvera can get the job done for Middlesbrough, and they can consolidate their place in the playoffs for Middlesbrough. Let's see how they go in this one. Sammy Silvera on the bench. Can't see Ryan McGree though, mate. So not sure what's going on there. Hope he's not injured again. That wouldn't be any good. Elsewhere tonight, we've got St Mirren taking on Celtic in the FA Cup semi-final as well. What about the Merseyside derby, Mopper? How are you feeling about that one?
Well, look, I'm a bit worried, but with Chelsea losing again, I think it's a free hit for us. And Aston Villa, to me, look like kings of Europa League for England again. So it could go down to 6 spots in the Champions League. Thank goodness for the mixed year that we've had. But you never know. Look, it's a funny game, the Merseyside derby, but first derby in the new stadium. So be a very good atmosphere. 11 o'clock kickoff. So fingers crossed we can just put in a good performance. And isn't that strange when you think about the dominance that Liverpool have done over the last 10 years, that we're just hoping for a result? So that just goes to show how quick football turns.
And what about the Great Escape there? Port Vale taking on Wigan tonight. Another 3 points.
5-0, isn't it? 5-0, they'll
Another
smash
3
it.
points, get that goal difference up. The Great Escape is on for Joe Gauci and John Brady.
I'm telling you, Wimbledon haven't won, Chief, in a very long time. And Port Vale, for some reason, are on fire. So I think the quarterfinal bounce is happening for the FA Cup. So, yeah, stay red hot tuned to League One at midnight.
Absolutely, mate. All right, we'll be back next time to talk more Aussie football. But in the meantime, enjoy your football.
All the best.